Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, bots and cons, to Tech Talk, the officially unofficial Transformers TCG podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Scott of VectorSigma.info. And Scott, this was supposed to be a nice, calm, soothing week where we were going to potentially get a lower level of spoilers and we were going to get a little preliminary testing in and maybe do a deeper dive on some of the cards. And then, bam! We get hammered with a whole bunch of news like 2 hours ago, and it was frantic scrambling trying to collate everything. It was definitely a very exciting Thursday afternoon.
I know we're supposed to be at a game store and then going to Dairy Queen, but that's not happening. So.
No Dairy Queen tonight, folks. All our hopes and dreams are ruined. That is, I have to say, it's now a Vector Sigma staple, I guess.
Yes.
You know, to be honest, before we started testing at that particular shop that is near one, I think I had been to a Dairy Queen literally once prior to that.
You're missing out.
Well, I've learned that. So, the things you learn as you're playing Transformers, or I guess after you're playing Transformers. But anyway, digressions aside, I didn't include this on the topic list, and I should have. But before we get into everything, I did want to bring up one quick item, and that is actually Cameron over at Arbitrary Hero for Conversion Conversations. You may have heard of him. It's a YouTube channel. He's another Transformers TCG content creator. He does a number of other things in his channel, but the reason I'm bringing it up, you may have seen us retweet it, both Scott and I, and we're also going to be talking about it in the future. And Scott, maybe you could give us some details, or we'll leave it a little vague there, but he's currently running or prepping for running a fundraiser for Extra Life. It's a charity that if you're not familiar with, I suggest you definitely check it out and check out his channel for more details. It's a great cause, and I just wanted to give him a quick shout out because I've mentioned it on past shows, although now that I think about it, it's been a little while. I'm a big person on charitable donations. If you have the means and the ability to, it's, and for lack of a better way to put it, it's a good thing to do. So if you have the opportunity, like I said, check it out. Scott, you had mentioned a little cryptically offline something that may be related. Are you ready to reveal anything for that, or you want to keep it on the DL for now?
No, we're still working out the details, but there's a case tournament coming up at Top Deck Games in Cherry Hill, the site where we have most of our monthly case events. And there's one coming up on October 19th, which is a Saturday. And since it's kind of like the end of the Siege 1 meta and it's not the Energon Invitational qualifier season anymore, we just wanted to have some of the proceeds for the event go towards the charity to be able to give Cameron a bigger donation from the area, not just like from the team. Like VectorSigma.info as a team is already giving out some stuff for him to raffle off and things like that. But I wanted to, because we have a very vibrant community from what I would consider to be like all the way from the Harrisburg area to the central northern Jersey area.
Yep.
Our entire, I guess you would call it like a 2-hour radius around us. I'm trying to get this event to be larger so that we can show support for the game outside the Energon Invitational qualifier season. And I figure if we also, at the same time, make it a good thing through the charity and support other charitable people throughout our community that it'll help out the situation, and it's a good way to close out this metagame.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely, as I said, a great cause, and I think it's worthwhile, exactly what you're saying, Scott, to try and support these sort of efforts. Now, again, shout out to Cameron over at Arbitrary Hero. He's definitely not the only person. I know the guys over at WTF at TFW typically run something, and there are a number of other content creators and organizations that naturally also could use support. So if you can't, or for whatever reason, this isn't the one, there's definitely other opportunities. So hopefully you'll be chipping in for this one, but if not, when you can, go ahead and give it a shot. So
and we'll be doing our Toys for Tots thing in December as well.
Exactly. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, and my throat's starting to give out a little bit already, and we haven't even gotten into it. Yeah, it's been a long week, unrelated to the insanity that actually got me legitimately excited, and I may it may boil over a little bit. I see a couple people in chat talking about some of the toys that were revealed today. So as we segue away from that into the spoilers, it does, now that we know, and this will be some small spoiler, we'll bring it up when we get to the reveals from today, but now that we know that so many of the cards are so closely tied to the toys, as I'm seeing the Earthrise reveals, I'm like, is there anything we can glean from that for future sets? And that's even before we're all the way through revealing this new set that's coming out very soon. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
I think they said the set after this is not related to the toy line, so I'm hoping. I'm hoping it's a movie set, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll cross our fingers. Speaking of movies, I don't know if this is necessarily the one you were referring to, Scott, but we'll get right into the spoilers. And one of the few bots to make the jump from the silver screen actually to other media is Barricade from the 2007 Michael Bay movie.
No, I mean the real movie.
Yeah, I know. I knew what I think we all knew what you meant, but it was a smooth segue, so I went with it. But anyway, so first up, we have Sergeant Barricade for our spoilers. These are grouped a little bit differently than we have before. For those of you out there in TV land or listening to this later on via SoundCloud or your podcast catcher of choice, you can probably figure out why. But we'll start with Sergeant Barricade. He is in alt mode, a melee car for 7 stars. He's a 4/12/2. And when you flip to this mode, you may play a battle card from under him. How do you get cards under him? Well, in bot mode, he's a 5/12/1, still melee. When Barricade battles and has no battle cards under him, after the battle, put one of your flipped battle cards that has no battle icons under this instead of into your scrap pile. Scott, I'm going to let you lead off because you seemed rather excited about this guy on Twitter.
Yeah, so I tend to build my decks with a good amount of blanks in them. I'm not sure it's going to be to that level, but I just think that this character for 7 stars has really good stats to start with.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at the blank free play ability as just an extra added bonus that you're getting out of the deal, in case, like you're not, I don't know, like if it was an orange deck, like you're missing out on an orange to attack with, but you're also getting, a free ability play in all likelihood. There, I guess, could be an upgrade as well.
Right.
Probably on a later turn, unless you're playing that secret action that lets you flip on when your opponent attacks you. But or unless you do something funky with secret actions to allow you to flip on your opponent's turn.
Right.
But the way I see it is, you're getting a decent attacker with pretty good stats, especially in alt mode, as a car that essentially then becomes a target for your opponent. So, like, your 7-drop is probably not going to be the centerpiece of your deck. So if you can cause that character to suddenly be a target instead of who your primary character is, or your, other primary character or something like that, I'm sure there's guys that hit harder or do more for your deck than the 7-drop. Because he has a card underneath him and your opponent knows that the next turn, you're going to be flipping him back to alt mode, which gives you the free play. And then, obviously it's a free action phase in addition to your other 2 action phases.
Yep.
And again, I'm assuming it's going to be an ability. There's just a potential on the next turn for you to then do a massive amount of damage. So I'm not saying it's not on the power level of like a Battlefield Legend type thing, but in a way, it's like a delayed Battlefield Legend type ability, at least the way that I play Battlefield Legend.
A fixed Battlefield Legend, so to speak.
Yeah, like you get the pipless blank action, so like which would be your one shot stands or your plasma burst typically. I guess Gyro would fit into the same category as the ones that are popular.
Right.
Ready for action would be an interesting one to allow him to attack again, for example, and typically sees plays in Cars decks. I don't have a complete list in front of me, but
right.
It's powerful abilities that usually the only, or I Still Function, I guess, is another one.
Yeah.
they're very powerful effects because they don't have any pips on them. So to get that quote for free, the next turn basically either makes him into a lightning rod or just gives you an insanely powerful ability right away. And again, I think this
Right.
fits into the sub theme of the white pips matter thing in this set because it just gives you access to more cards, which would give you access to more ability to get the blank.
Yeah, I'm curious going forward since we still have roughly somewhere just south of half the set remaining. I think prior to this set of reveals, it was about half. So guesstimating anyway. Whether we will get, since we're now seeing a lot of cards, well, maybe not a lot, but we've seen several cards that care about cards that are under them. Now, obviously, it's a tracking method for this, or for previously in Wave 1, it was Nemesis, the new Hot Rod, a few other cards. Presumably, there will be a couple more at least. Whether we'll get something that lets you somehow recur the cards from under them back to your hand. In Barricade's case, it's not going to matter as much because you're likely just to play the card for obvious reasons. But since this is now becoming another, we know that the design team loves playing around with those spaces. So I'm curious if we'll see something like that or not. But as far as Barricade himself, that lightning rod comment that you had made really is my main concern for him. So although he does have pretty decent stats, 12 health is pretty solid for a 7 drop, and he has 2 defense in alt mode, although you'll probably be attacking in bot mode for obvious reasons. I'm curious how sturdy he's going to be while simultaneously presenting enough of a threat. Clearly, as you were explaining, the blank cards are super impactful. Are they going to do enough if this guy was in a blue shell, for example, and he's air quotes only hitting for 5 without, assuming extra help? I think there's something here. I just don't quite know exactly what it is yet off the top of my head. It's just, this is another guy that, you get to play a card off his flip? All right, well, let's call back to Swerve when we talked about it last week or the week before, whenever it was revealed, where you could hypothetically do something else silly.
Yeah, I just think that, assuming you're playing these cards in your deck, which I typically am, there's really not a lot of downside to just getting one for free other than could be playing a different character other than him. If you don't get the ability, he's probably just not as good as somebody else you could be playing.
Right. That's my main concern. But at least in my case, I definitely want to try him out because of exactly what you were explaining, that he presents the potential for either a blowout play or just something unique that maybe turns a matchup around or opens up something new.
Yeah, and then clearly he combos with the Rise of the Combiners Skywarp that gets back the blanks. I just don't you would still need some kind of plan or pseudo plan type effect to make the whole thing work out.
Right.
But,
well, they are both Decepticons, so
yeah. But I don't even think you need that. I think you just basically attack as a 5-power attacker with 12 health and 1 defense, and then hope that if you get it, then you get it. If you don't, it's probably going to be an orange anyway. So it's +1 attack anyway. So you just have to look at it there's no downside when you play this guy with 6 or 7 blanks in your deck is the way I see it.
Now one of the good things about it is that it's whenever he battles, so you could hypothetically be getting these blanks on defense as well, and then activate them away. So, because it's when this battles and has no battle cards as opposed to when he attacks. I don't know. I might have said that wrong earlier, so I apologize.
No, I might have interpreted it wrong. So that's even better then.
Yeah. So there are ways, I guess, that you could get in alt mode and then transform him later. Point being, and then get the attacks to him via hiding spot or whatever, if for some reason you don't want to swing in bot mode, which presumably you will, but weirder things have happened. It at least opens your options for what you can do with him.
Yeah, he's way better then, because
Absolutely.
You basically, you can just play them then in a blue shell, and then that way you don't even care. As long as you're getting one of the cards within the whole entire attack cycle, so now this is a character that can actually attack first, because now he's unlikely to die, and you don't have to set anything up because you actually will probably get 2 combat phases to try to get the card, and then on your first, if you're going first on your first real turn, you'll get an extra play, which will be the most impactful turn that you can do it. So
Right.
this guy's really much better than I thought then.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying him out. It's just that, well, we'll see if he's made of paper or not, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, since he can get in on that first turn, it definitely helps his case. I'm curious if anybody's already translated the Cybertronian script that's on his doors in alt mode.
Doesn't it say whatever, serve and protect or whatever?
Probably.
Yeah.
That's what it usually does, but I mean, I'll be honest, I don't read it, so
Yeah.
I'll consider myself illiterate when it comes to Cybertronian at this stage. I'd have to sit down and do it. But anyway, any other thoughts for Barricade?
Nope.
Okay, cool. We'll move on from Barricade, and next up we have Raider Rumble. So this is another member of the Spy Patrol. He is a 0-11-0 for 6 stars in alt mode with Revenge, do 2 damage to an enemy. So we've seen Revenge before on the Triptychon cards way back when. It feels like forever ago at this stage. So, but in this case, it doesn't require Triptychon, obviously. It's just use a character's Revenge ability when it's KO'd.
It's on Ratbat too, so it seems to be a Spy Patrol and Triptychon thing only at this point.
At this point, yeah. After the alt mode, into bot mode, again, Spy Patrol, he's melee, he's 4-11-0, and his tap ability, as you expect he has one, is return an upgrade on a character to its owner's hand. Since it's just an upgrade on a character, it could be your own. There's always the armed hovercraft argument, but outside of that, off the top of my head, I'm not sure of too many others you want to do right now.
I mean, you could always return like a field communicator. It's just not a great play, but I mean, you can always return.
There is that.
You always return like a bashing shield or a
right
or batons or something like that.
There are going to be fringe cases where you'll have a need for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm assuming what he's probably going to be doing is bouncing an armor on their side. You attack with Soundwave, untap him, get in again, sort of thing, or some similar scenario to that.
Yeah, I think we're at the situation again, like we were with Ratbat, where because he's 6 stars, that you can't play 3 Spy Patrol members, or even what can you play? You can play 2 of them and not a 4th character, so you're at star cost.
Yeah,
star card again with these characters. So that's, I mean, I don't think it really matters all that much that he's obviously he has really good stats for a 6-drop. Not good defensive stats, but really good offensive stats for a 6-drop. He has a really good offensive ability for a 6-drop that should be able to help you. I just don't really know what his place is, because again, you're going to be in this situation where Soundwave costs 11, and then like he would put it to 17, and then like you can't even use another Spy Patrol member without 3 star cards, or I guess you could use the 2 6-cost Spy Patrol members and then only get 2 star cards, so it's like a little bit better, but probably not.
You get slightly better stats because with Soundwave he is a 4-11-1, and if it's sort of bluish, then he's sturdy enough, I guess. I just don't know if he's sturdy enough that you're gonna get an attack with him and then get him back into alt mode to get the Revenge, which is clearly one of the big draws for him.
Yeah, I agree. That's the part I really don't understand, is like where that Revenge ability is ever going to really come into play. Like how you
Swerve. That's literally like that. I hate to keep coming back to that card, but after we talked about it, we didn't preview it, but after we reviewed the preview, that card just keeps coming back. Like I keep finding scenarios to play it, but I don't know if that's enough on its own to say, yep, that makes untap Soundwave work.
I mean, it has to be a situation where basically you're using his tap ability, then flipping him, and if obviously the first time would have to be with a card effect, and then somehow I don't know.
Well,
untap, it's just too weird. I don't know.
It gets difficult because you want him to be defensively in alt mode, but you need him to attack, or otherwise he's doing literally nothing.
Or use his ability, right?
Well, but I did, full disclosure, I tried a lot to make untap Soundwave work in a variety of combinations, and the bottom line is, like, at least with the previous Spy Patrols, I didn't care enough about their tap abilities. I just wanted to attack with them, and I ended up getting away from Ravage, liking Laserbeak enough just because if you attack, untap, attack, it's, air quotes, a free bigger they are. So you can target 4 damage on something, sort of.
Sure.
I mean, there are a bunch of other caveats for that, but we'll just make it succinct in that fashion. I never cared about his secret ability playing thing. I didn't think Ravage was worth going into the ping ability, and I'm not confident that it's worth bouncing an upgrade to the, at least right now, to bounce an upgrade and then transform him back.
Keep in mind this kills Battle Masters too.
There is that. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying it's worthless. I just don't know if it's worth when you're a 3-wide team like that, even with the untap. I don't know. It feels like it's going to be very difficult to make that work.
Right? Yeah, I agree. I don't think. I think this would have been a fine ability on a 5-drop, and then just substitute him for one of the other 5-drops to allow you to play a 4-wide team. There was a little bit more. I don't know. Had a little bit more play because I think the Laserbeak secret action ability has more play now than it used to have and things like that. So I think there would have been ways if he was 5, it would have been better. And instead of now just getting getting these 3-star cards is just rough. So
yeah, I mean, you do get the new pincer movement thing, which I think that's the home for it is this deck if it exists, but I don't know yet. I see chat talking about I still functioning him back or you transform him the turn before you use his tap. Both of those are potential scenarios, and I agree about the ISF or involuntary promotion sort of things for him.
Yeah, that would give you the revenge ability, so that's fair.
Yeah, there are definitely ways to trigger it. I wasn't very happy previously with orange based on tap sound waves, which, being more aggressive, the extra damage, etc. I always leaned more into the blue ones, so maybe we'll have to see. I think both Ratbat and the new star card kind of want to push you to slightly more diversified pips, but I think this deck still needs a little bit of help right now.
Fair. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So, and again, of course, like we mentioned, potential shenanigans of returning your own stuff. There's always that.
Yep.
Anything else for what I want to call Raider Frenzy, because for me, the cartoon, and he's red, but I understand the origins.
Yep.
All right. So we'll move on from there to a reveal from the end of last week, and that's Raider Spinister, who, according to the comics, is literally the dumbest creature alive in the universe. Comparatively, though, I loved him as a character, and I do like his card, personally, but we'll get into that. So he's a ranged helicopter, ranged in both modes. He's a 3/13/1 for 11 stars. He has 2 weapon slots in both modes. In alt mode, while this has a Battlemaster upgrade, it has +3 attack. In bot mode, again, 2 weapon slots, 4/13/1. When you flip to this mode, one of your Battlemaster characters gets +3 attack until end of turn. So you start the game with a leap into battle. Is this guy setting the world on fire, Scott? Are you looking forward to playing him, or is he just exciting at first and then peters off?
I mean, you can fit 2 7-cost Battlemasters in with him if you look at the current Battlemaster incarnations. Obviously, as we get, I'm sure there's a few more to be revealed.
Now, we're getting a lot of the utility, and we still are waiting on another armor one. I don't know if we're going to be getting a lot more weapon ones, though. We may or may not have seen all of them.
Well, just in general, the weapons seem to be 7, and
yes,
and the other things seem to be less. But the weapon ones seem to be the ones that I guess you don't mind them being killed as much. So the current Battlemaster incarnations. So I just don't. I mean, obviously, this is a situation similar to we talked about before with 6-gun, where you're starting the game right away with an ability to hit for a lot of damage.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. And he actually, speaking of 6-gun, you can go him 6-gun other guy, although 6-gun is a weaponizer, not a battle master, so it matters.
So you have to play a 5-drop.
You'd have to play hammer down or smash down.
Or blowpipe, I guess.
So hammer down. I don't think you're playing blowpipe.
In all likelihood,
yeah. At least not here. I mean, maybe he has a home elsewhere, but yeah.
I mean, that's the type of situation where I think you want to focus on that leap into battle ability way.
Yeah.
Which is obviously going to be better when you're going first than when you're going second.
Of course.
But I mean, it depends on who you're facing off against. I mean, that it's again a similar situation that we talked about with 6-gun, where getting the action and or upgrade play going second with a character is in all likelihood going to be a lot of damage incoming.
Absolutely.
Because you're probably going to be anywhere from +6 to +7.
Right.
By doing nothing, like just by flipping to a mode that you want to be in anyway. I guess my only issue with him is he's just like it's like the nemesis effect. It's just a giant pile of stats, and I'm not sure that for my 11 drop that's like where I really want to be.
Yeah, I could definitely see this. Okay, so let's look at it this way. I think it wants a battle master that it provides steamroll, provides Grimlock's ability as part of its effect. That one, I think, I don't know if we'll see something like that, but it would want something along those lines to salvage that. I'm just pouring a bunch of numbers on. It also doesn't seem to break any of the existing relationships between the various spheres. At least as far as I can tell. If you're a 3-wide, him plus 2 battle masters or him plus battle master plus X, you're still just 3-wide doing 3-wide orange things. Unless we're back to the 6-gun argument though.
Pumping your own battle master and getting in there again on turn 1 against the 4-wide deck again will leave them in a my guy's dead regardless situation that we talked about.
So it would be 3, 6, 8. So I'm thinking with Fire Drive. So say you swing with Fire Drive, put them to 6, get 2 oranges going first. Like that's not enough to. It cripples a guy. So if you punch Scrapnel, it saves you because it would be 8. He'll have 5 on him, so it's air quotes 2 attacks taken off.
It's 1. Yeah.
You see, like if they were to flip and then try and stall out is where I'm going with it. Yeah, so you're ahead in that scenario, but you're not. It compared to 6-gun, I think it's just because of the way 6-gun works and what he has available. So 6-gun paired with other partners, plus being able to pitch the weapon, allows a one-shot. Spinister is going to have to reach a little bit more in order to pull that off.
But then if you flip it over to like a Lionizer situation, now you're talking about much higher potential of an actual turn 1 KO against a 4-wide deck.
Yeah, it may come back to, okay, maybe Lionizer becomes the go-to. In my head, obviously, I'm always going to lean towards Fire Drive first, but Lionizer or hypothetical other new Battle Master. And again, it could be maybe we'll get an Armor Battle Master that for some bizarre reason in their bot mode has a high attack value. And then who cares? It's still a Battle Master. You pump them up and get in.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do want to play with Spinister just because I want to, just for the sake of it. I'm very excited for when his toy comes out at the end of the year, but I gotta, I guess, reserve judgment at this stage until we get a little more info.
Yeah, I think you just have to focus on that leap into battle ability, and if that winds up not mattering, like essentially it has to be because your main character is an 11-star. Not defensive specialist.
No. He's getting 2-shot by just about anything important.
I think he's going to get 1 shot by the time he's actually vulnerable. That's the point.
Yes, yeah. Unless those Battle Masters are defensive, yes.
But even then, I think that's not the way you should.
Yeah, you're asking a lot.
So by that point, I think you have to basically build the deck in a way that you're getting a KO every single attack, and that if you're getting this free leap into battle. I think you basically have to be getting a KO every single turn, or at least working your way towards that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Somebody's going to be very excited and sealed when they open him in a Battle Master, though, I would think.
Yeah, I agree.
You might be okay with that one. Just saying.
Is he uncommon or rare?
He is uncommon.
Yeah, so because the tank thing that has the 2 armors is also uncommon, so I figured he was, but I wasn't sure.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to him. Just if for no other reason than I love the Scavengers. Shout out to anybody who's been enjoying the comics or did for the old Idea W series. But anyway, anything else for Spinister?
Nope.
Okay, so we're going to be moving into now the more recent reveals. So I didn't know initially when I was building the overlay for how to attribute these reveals. You know, we always try and make sure we have a list of who revealed the cards. In these particular cases, it turns out they were official Hasbro reveals, but I did pull these images, and that's why they're not quite clear. So I apologize to everybody looking on video. They're not exactly pristine. I tried to crop them and stuff. They came from a number of different sources. TFW 2005 was on site, TFU.info, Radio Free Cybertron. A whole bunch of other people were tweeting out pictures because I feel like they kind of just snuck these out there, and then somebody must have walked by and went, hey, those are new cards, and they tweeted it out, and then a little while afterwards, we got the official announcement about them, or that they were there anyway.
Yeah, we never really got... So my information is that, I mean, they're just there at New York Comic Con.
Yep.
They let in the toy press earlier than... How do I explain it? I was told that like the toy press for Transformers got in before the more generalized press. So I would like my theory was that this was like was going to be like an IGN type reveal. Mm-hmm. But apparently there was nothing lined up as an official reveal. And I mean, shout out to all the like you said, all those sites that were
and I apologize if I missed anybody, but there was a deluge at one point of trying to keep up with it.
But really, these are official Hasbro reviews because
it's their booth.
This faction, the Mercenary faction as part of Siege is being introduced through the card game, not through the toys,
which is unique. Like that's really cool. That
not through the cartoon, not through the upcoming cartoon, not through the toys. Like this is the first reveal of this, and they might make toys later.
I think they did say that coming out. And I vaguely recall at some point Drew or somebody alluding to not that the third faction thing or mercenaries or anything like that, but just that they were going to get to debut something in the card game that was then going to show up in other media, like you said, the toys, the cartoons, movies, or whatever. It's starting here, which is really cool. And outside the game thing is and you tell me if you feel the same way, Scott, but to me that displays a high level of confidence in, that we want our newest, hottest thing to show up here first, as opposed to, copying the remaining things. Maybe I'm reading too much into
totally
it.
Agree.
Yeah, it just
totally. Yeah.
It seems really cool that it's starting with the cards and then it's pushing out to everything else. So it's definitely very unique.
Yeah, I mean, most licensed products, typically you're like, okay, we're going to focus on whatever, like this season, this movie, like whatever, and the next set will be this thing. But like here is a true you can tell it's a true partnership between all aspects of, I guess we could say, the same company, or like however it's set up,
exactly,
Wizards and all that. So, but you can tell that there's a true. It's everyone rowing in the same direction for the benefit of the same brand,
right? And
so, yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's awesome that they're doing it in this fashion, and again, I think it really shows a lot of both support and confidence in the product and the community and all of the other things that you usually hear. I think this is evidence of that. So,
agree.
Without further ado on that, the only other thing I wanted to call out, and we'll probably bring this up again later, is initially we were debating offline before we got the official announcements, because some of the pictures were, we could see the name, but it was way too small to see the wave or the card numbers, whether this was going to be part of Siege 2. They are, Although one of the cards, I saw something, and I don't know if you saw the same thing, Scott, that Nightbird is supposed to be the next part of like the gold promos or something along those lines.
No, she's the release promo. So she's
the release promo.
Down.
Okay, I saw
she's
it was a promo,
down.
but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So we'll probably bring that up when we get to her later on. But we're starting off actually with Deadlock, who did show up.
Wait. Where's my intro?
Where's your intro? Oh, I thought you were joking when you said. Okay,
I'm not joking.
Oh, I thought you were making a joke. Okay, so I apologize to everybody out there. I do not have the A-Team theme music to play, but just everybody, if you're out there listening to this not live, pause this, go to YouTube, listen to it, and then come back. So Scott will be happy.
I wanted the A-Team to be here because they're mercenaries.
I'm sorry that I apologize, everybody. Oh, God. I really thought you were joking about that.
No, I really want it's a joke, but I still want it.
Okay. Next time I'll double check because, yeah. Sorry.
The characters themselves, I guess we should just talk about what it means to be a third faction and what it means that this exists and all that. And
that's a good idea. I was going to describe the abilities, but let's start there. That's a better point A. So go ahead, take it away, Scott.
So because the game, I should say, for those that don't already know, you're allowed to mix factions in this game.
Yes.
In case
spoiler alert.
In case you haven't checked the Facebook group in the last 2 days by somebody new asking this question for the 10th time this week, you are allowed to mix factions in this game. So therefore, the concept of a neutral or mercenary type faction in this situation isn't as impactful as it's been in other games where you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
Other games we've played, for example, where you're not allowed to mix factions. This would be a much bigger deal. But it is a big deal in this game because a lot of the cards that see play competitively specifically call out certain factions and other and things like that. So like you have your Nobles Blasters, your Scoundrels Blasters, your Press the Advantage, your what else are the Callous Leadership, your
well, there's a lot of cards that do specify certain factions. I mean, Matrix, simple things. God.
No, so there's downside and upside to not being those specific factions, but there always has been anyway.
Right. And notably, there are other ones that people may get tripped up on, like Confidence or Swindled.
Yep.
Where
those are good ones. I couldn't think of those. Those are good ones.
Right. Yeah. And those are, as opposed to requiring specific things, it's looking for, that you started all one faction, and technically you're not when you have Mercenaries. So.
Right. So they don't count as either faction. They don't count I don't think they're technically together as their own faction either.
I mean, there are cards that we'll see, and anybody who's listening, as we've done before, will be splitting these up, so stay tuned for the battle cards. But there are cards that specifically look for mercenaries right now already, so.
Yeah, but I don't think they're working together, the characters either. I think they just are all on their own, the way that the art seems to be.
As mercenaries might be.
Yes.
Yeah, one might say.
So, I mean, it's a cool concept that way. I will say that a lot of them seem to have high star costs, so you're not going to be able to play a bunch of them. But I don't really see a downside in them at all, as long as they're good characters. There's almost no downside.
Oh yeah. Well, there is going to be that choice of the Press the Advantage in your primarily Autobot deck, where you feature a insert mercenary. May not be as big of a deal because at the very least, you give their Decepticons some lower stats. But it may matter for those Noble Blasters or the fact that you cannot play Confidence or things like that. So there is a trade-off, but I agree with you. It's not necessarily as damning as it may have been.
Yeah, and then they all share a bounty ability. So this is a key. This is the reason why, if you were following it on our Twitter, why I thought this was a standalone product that was going to come out after Siege 2, because the fact that and I understand why, because they waited till New York Comic Con to reveal it.
Yeah,
because,
the big reveal.
It is part of, it's affecting the toy line that it gets to be spoiled here, as we talked about.
Right.
Through the Siege product. So that's why they had to wait. But I just assumed we weren't going to have another keyword this late in the reveal season.
Right.
That was so impactful, or potentially impactful.
Yep.
In Bounty. So Bounty, essentially, I think it's only on their bot modes.
As of right now, yes. It basically amounts to when the character in question with a bounty does enough attack damage to KO an enemy, you get the bounty.
Correct. So I guess the way, and I'm just going to say this now, and then we'll caveat it with as we talk about each one's individual ability. The way I see this is, if you're using one of these characters as your main character, you obviously should be waiting until they can kill somebody to use that ability.
You don't say.
I mean,
no, I get you. I guess
you don't want to be in an overkill situation. So I think some
right.
of them some of them you absolutely want to, you would kill a Micromaster to get the ability off, and some of them are like, well, it'd be nice if I kill a guy, but I'm not going to waste a giant attack just to get the ability off.
Right.
So I think that's a decision point that you need to make with each of these characters. I also believe that the way I see it is, it's essentially a flip to bot mode ability if you're KOing somebody on the turn. So, like, I know they seem really flashy, but in reality, like, all this really is adding on a more difficult condition to a flip to bot mode ability where they probably should be attacking in that mode anyway.
Right.
And I feel like if you're not getting that, like, so the flip density on these characters is automatically a negative in a way, because they pretty much want to be flipping to that ability. Or else why are you running this character at all without getting that bounty ability? So, I do feel like all the bounty abilities, even like the quote bad ones, are not as good ones, I should say, are all good. So they're all worth it to try to get them off if you're doing it in addition to, killing a significant character. So I don't see anything wrong with any of them, and they're all worth the effort. It just depends on what is required to do that effort, which is going to be obviously, like, does this have to be in an orange deck because you want to be doing more damage? Probably not, but it wouldn't hurt. Like, you obviously have to usually upgrade them and play an ability on them, or play a damage their target outside of combat type of thing. So it's just going to depend on how difficult it is, and if it matters anyway. If you're doing it, what's the detriment of not getting the ability off? And we also luckily have a battle card that helps in that situation as well.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's really interesting. I think it brings in really important decision points, because you need to understand whether or not the character you're playing or the characters that you're playing that has the ability, how important is it if you miss, and how important is it if you hit, and what happens in both those situations?
Well, one other scenario is, how important is it if you overvalue that bounty, for example?
Right, exactly.
Because the drawback of missing is, of course, well, you sunk an attack into something that you needed to kill that, like, you've just, air quotes, wasted an attack. Yes, you could finish them off next turn with direct damage or something along those lines, but unless you were going in intending to do that, I don't know if it's that much different than, any other character. Yes, you whiffed on the bounty, but the bigger issue is you burned another attack, and you only get so many of those in a given game.
Right, your sequencing needs to be that this is the character that kills something.
Absolutely.
If that's the situation. But some of them, I guess I haven't really evaluated how good some on their own. Like, I think as we go through them, like, I think there might be only one or two of the 6 that I think would be playable without actually getting the bounty off. I think their flip to back to alt mode abilities are very playable.
Okay.
Gotcha. So I guess that would be the situation where it would be okay.
Right.
But for some of the other ones, like, and one of them I think is extremely skill intensive and really I think I think a few of them are. I guess probably like 3 of them are that I can really think of off the top of my head that like really require a damned if you do, damned if you don't type decision for yourself, and then it'll be tough to see if you're able to make them the correct way.
Gotcha.
Well, we'll get to that as we go through it.
Yeah. So any other thoughts on the general idea of Mercenaries or the keyword or anything along those lines before we talk specifics, Scott?
I don't know who some of these characters are at all, so any light you can shed on their backgrounds.
Okay. Well, Deadlock we did talk about offline a little bit.
I know him.
He like I said, he did show up before, so most people playing the game probably at least have heard the name before. It's interesting that some of these characters are mercenaries, just from a lore perspective. I mean, Deadlock showed up as a Decepticon before. Obviously, there's been a bazillion different Transformers lines, so everybody's been everything at some point, good, bad, or otherwise. So there's no reason that they can't be. But for Deadlock specifically, we'll talk card now. In alt mode, he's a car, and he's ranged, both modes, 9 stars, 5-12-0. Now, he in alt mode, he starts off with stealth against Autobots and Decepticons, which is something I want to call back to in a moment. But when you flip to alt mode, Autobots and Decepticons can't use stealth this turn. Now, over in bot mode, he's a 4-12-0 with a bounty of flip this and draw 2 cards. So he goes back into stealth mode, and you get 2 cards. I mean, I guess the removing stealth could matter if you KO somebody and then it's the wheel turn. But I wanted to call out that he has stealth and also debuffs both Autobots and Decepticons, which is something that we've seen in other games where it's not uncommon for this third faction to end up hating one faction and not the other, and then that hurts their playability as a whole because it's just more of a niche card, as opposed to this one where it's, okay, I'm defensive or debuffing both of the primary factions.
Yeah, this is weird. I can't...
For 9 stars, I feel like this is asking a lot, but maybe...
It's hard for me to envision the scenarios where you're going to want to shunt the attacks to another target. And... I mean, it's fine. I mean, he stays alive. I just don't know how relevant that is when you're just...
I think this is yet another guy that falls in the category of I'd love to be alongside something like Six Gun. So the idea being that you get in and either you need to cripple something early, but then simultaneously have somebody you want to divert the attacks to, like you said, Six Gun, or, insert other Battle Master where you pummel somebody and then he becomes a bigger threat later on. So you don't necessarily have that battlefield legend that is your centerpiece on this team. It's 3 medium or mediocre. Well, I don't want to say mediocre because then why are you playing them? But, 3 less threatening characters, of which some of them are Battle Masters or whatever. And then this guy stays alive by picking people off and then getting loaded up because you're diverting those attacks. I don't know if that's good enough, but
it's just not a play pattern I'm used to. Like I think like if you want to do that, most decks are just playing like a brave character or playing hiding spots on the one key character to divert the attacks. The other guys, like this guy himself, is not. I don't know. Like,
I mean, it frees up slots enough, because so you're. To counter those points, and I don't know if they're good counters, so I'll start with that. But you therefore don't have to play Hiding Spot, which I like Hiding Spot a lot, but there are plenty of scenarios where you feel uncomfortable with it, or you flip it, and it's like, great, I got a Black Pip. Who cares? So you don't have to take up deck slots, or in the Brave character scenario, you're not stuck playing Fireflight, or something along those lines. Again, I think it's going to be 3 wide medium bots, which I don't know if it'll be 3 wide, and it would have to be orange because in order to guarantee that this guy kills anything, you either have to be orange or have a lot of pierce to guarantee it, or I don't know.
I mean, you can just put a permanent weapon on him and then hope that, and then have it stay around. And then he just is like permanently bigger. I think the 6-gun example is a good one because the best part of the weapon goes into the other slot, so therefore he becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and a larger threat. I guess we'll just have to evaluate that. I just don't know that it just seems weird. I don't know, like, because you're not going to want to attack with him first because then the stealth doesn't matter. You're not going to want to attack with him. I guess you want to attack with him second, and then the attacks have to go to the other guy. So, like, that to me is where, like, you know, someone that was super defensive that they're going to be wasting constant attacks on, I think is probably where you want to put them with, like, an aimless or, like, a hot rod or, like, I don't know, like some other defensive low drop.
Right.
And then use your stars left over for some other character that, I mean, is just as offensive. So, like, you could think of, like, a Wheeljack, him, aimless deck or something like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there.
Yeah. So. Well, that fits into the, like I said, 3. I mean, Wheeljack isn't what I'd necessarily call medium sized, but
like whatever.
Yeah.
6-gun, whatever.
Yeah. There's a bunch of things that could play into him, but I agree. It's weird. I'm concerned about his attack values. Obviously, the low defense probably is never going to matter because either he's getting into stealth or he's dead. Like, that's it. Like, I don't think it's going to matter. But the attack value is on the lower end, so without a permanent weapon or without a battle master or whatever, it's just, I think it's going to be difficult to get him to trigger. And like you said, the attack pattern, I think he wants to get in second, and then because he's a car, you could untap him, get in again now that he's powered up. So, you know, you get in with a battle master, cripple something, somehow manage to get deadlock onto that character that they clearly are not going to expose, flip him, they have to attack the battle master who goes onto him, untap him, get in again. It just, I see what I think he's supposed to do. I just don't know if that's really going to happen.
I think it's a good use of aimless. That's where I'll start with him.
Yeah, I can definitely get behind that idea. I'm looking forward to seeing a and this is not to knock on the people giving us the information. Please don't anybody take it that way, but I'm looking forward to a better picture of him because the artwork looks really cool. It's just
they all look good.
Yeah, it's just the reality is it's pictures of cards on a table at weird angles, and I had to crop them weird to get them to fit and stuff. So, anyway, anything else for Deadlock?
Nope.
Okay, cool. We'll move on from him to Detritus. So he is probably one of the. What was that?
A guy I've never heard of.
I was about to say, is this one of the guys you're referring to? Yeah, he seems like another deep cut. So he is a ranged truck, ranged in both modes. So we did say that for Deadlock, and we'll preface it here. If you've listened to any of our shows, we've talked a lot about ranged, but it boils down to ranged is good. So if you have the option to run ranged, it's a bonus. So we'll just throw that out there if we don't specifically call it out. So he's a ranged truck, 11 stars, 6, 14, 1 in alt mode. And when you flip to alt mode, you may play a black pip card. So when he goes in bot mode, he's a 5, 14, 2. And his bounty is to repair 3 from himself. So we have a pretty significant heal. He does get a little sturdier in bot mode, which is abnormal overall. And I'll throw it out there again, yet another guy that gets more interesting with Swerve. Simply because you can play cards on your opponent's turn.
Yep, that's fair.
Off the top of my head, I don't know too many black pip cards that you care about, but there's surely a list. So that will happen if this guy passes the bar before that. Is he doing that, Scott? Is this one exciting enough for you?
Oh, I like this card a lot.
You do? Okay, tell us about it.
I mean, you have a built-in heal with a good amount of stats. I mean, 6 in alt mode without even having to flip.
Right.
Is really powerful. A lot of health for his cost. I mean, these are very good stats. I assume the first time that he's going to be healing himself will be off a one-shot stand that you put off him at one point.
True.
But I mean,
that's a good way to ensure that you're getting the bounty. I'm just going to go out there and say that.
Yeah. I mean, this truly helps you against the wider decks because if you take a hit from one of the small, like the way the wider decks win, obviously having more opponent, but it can sometimes still take more than one attack to actually kill them. So if you're playing this like in a blue shell, and well, if you're playing this in a blue shell, then the wide deck would be weak to you to begin with. But nonetheless,
you put the final nails in the coffin.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for them to. He's constantly going to be a threat because he's going to be healing himself back to like out of kill range.
Yeah.
Just by picking off guys relatively easily. So that's what I like about him. I mean, he's got some of the higher stats for these characters. He's what, 5'14", right?
5'14", yeah.
Yeah. I think the flip to alt mode ability is powerful. We have some battle cards that we're going to see that rely on the mercenaries that are black focused.
And it's also any black pip card. It's not specifically an action or an upgrade. It could be either one. So,
right. So, I think there's a lot you can do there.
Scott, if we get a black pip marksmanship, are you going to lose your mind?
Sure. So no, I think this guy's really good. I think this is one of the ones I think that can stand on the zone.
I can see that.
Obviously, it's a high star investment. Obviously, but I think that's fine. Simply because I think you're getting an ability that's worth more than a card. So I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, the repair 3, like that number 3 seems to be a pretty, hypothetically, a pretty good break point. And I'm curious to see if it is actually going to turn out to be that. Like you had described, against the wider decks, if you're blue, you should probably already be taking that matchup. But against say a 3-wide orange deck, healing 3 may be significant enough to get you another attack or force them to sink another attack into this guy, which could make a difference.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to break down that way given certain numbers. Whether we've seen all of the mercenary related things, or there's going to be specific mercenary hate or anything like that. But I think there is potential for this guy. I don't know exactly off the top of my head where he's going to fit, simply because of that star cost, like you called it to. Clearly, he's the focal point, but we'll talk about it when we get to the battle cards, like you said, but it's, for me, and I apologize everybody out there as I'm trying to collect my thoughts on this and phrase it the right way, but it's tough for me to justify a guy with this amount of stars when you do have alternatives for ones that hit harder or do necessarily more unique things. So yes, I get Battlefield Legend is 2 more stars, but he does do a hell of a lot more, if you follow what I mean. So I can certainly see the argument that this guy's going to have a place. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head what it is, because I don't know immediately all of the 9s that I would want to put with him, and then probably Flame War or something.
Yeah, agreed.
But he's somebody I want to keep an eye on, because again, like we started out with, ranged, and he heals, and he gets to play free cards. There's a bunch of things that could get you excited about this guy.
He has everything that a control deck wants.
Exactly, yeah. He seems like a very much the prototypical control finisher from other games. So
yep.
I'm definitely looking forward to trying this guy out at the very least.
Yep.
So moving from there, we have Lockdown, who's another character that he's not somebody that is probably going to come to mind when someone names their favorite Transformer, unless their favorite Transformers are from Transformers Animated. Is this one that you recognize, Scott?
No clue.
So this guy, unless I'm incorrect, and I'm sure somebody out there will correct me. He made his debut in Transformers Animated, and then obviously showed up in the Michael Bay movies, and like Barricade and Bulkhead and a number of other characters, they've transcended, and Windblade as well, transcended where their origins and have now become much more. They underpin everything a lot more than they did previously, I guess, is the way I'll put it. So anyway, Lockdown is another car. He's melee in both modes. He is 10 stars. He's a 5/15/1. And he has +2 attack for each card under him. Yet another card with with that line of text. When you flip to alt mode, you draw a card for each card under him and for each upgrade he has. Then scrap that many cards from your hand. When he's in bot mode, he's a 4/15/2. Again, +2 attack for each card under him. When this does enough, or excuse me, rather than read it, his bounty is put the bottom card of your deck face down under this. So he's going to grow, but he doesn't have the innate defensive capabilities of when we were talking about Deadlock. Does that turn you off this guy, Scott?
No, because I think his flip to alt mode is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, all you need to do is have an upgrade on him, and he's at least drawing and discarding one card, which is exactly what you want to be doing in this game,
right? To
make sure that you're smoothing out your turns. So this guy is extremely good with starter engines.
Yes, that would probably be accurate.
Or turbo, I mean, he wouldn't be as good with. If you were already in car mode, he's fine with. Well, I don't know if you can turbo boosters work with him. I guess.
Well, yeah,
you have it on there already at the second, something like that. So. He's really good.
Yes. Oh, I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Yes. Sorry, I wasn't following where you were going with it, but I got you.
Yeah. He's really good with padded armor. He's really good with attack drone.
Yeah, you're going to be able to dig for silver bullets, other one-ofs, if you want to get them, and you have those things equipped to them already.
Yeah, I mean, he's really good when you have starter engines to start the turn. He's not as good. He's not bad or anything to go find it. But I do think, as much as I'm not a fan of padded armor, he's really good with that. And I think what I like about him is, as a car with starter engines type abilities, he will simply grow as the game goes on without the need to constantly be pumping more weapons into him, ability cards into him. He just gets bigger for every guy he kills. So, if you kill, as soon as you kill 2 opposing guys with his ability through untapping, he's going to be 9 in alt mode when as the larger mode.
Yeah.
I mean, assuming they only have 3 guys, like if you can make it so that he actually lands the killing blows on like the 2 minor characters, the 2 lesser characters, then like, I mean, his stats are already large to begin with, at 5/15/2 or whatever.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you're talking about a 9/15/2, 7 like a 7/15/2, a 9/15/2 with weapons attached, with armor attached that lets you draw and discard cards. Like, I think this guy's good. I don't see any real downside other than. Especially because he's a car, I just really see almost no downside to this guy.
To be fair, car is a really important trait. It definitely counts for a lot when we're evaluating these things, and this guy's really no exception. I guess my question for you, or that may be on a lot of people's minds out there, is does he displace or go alongside or spawn his own version of cars outside of Wheeljack?
You mean outside of Cliffjumper also?
Well, I'm comparing it to Wheeljack at this stage because 9 to 10 stars, and that's the heavy hitter, as opposed to Cliffjumper, who also could be hypothetically very large, but serves another purpose for a lot of those decks.
I mean, this to me is the power level of, like, it's a different type of power level, but on the same level as Goron.
As what?
Or as as Wheeljack or Trusted Lieutenant. I mean, I think they do different things,
Right.
but I think his card sifting ability is similar to both of them. To basically get you what you need to. And I just think that there's a number of 7-drop cards in this set that can easily fit with him and Cliffjumper.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It's while Start Your Engines does obviously ease the flip density to some extent, I'm curious to see how those line up, and is that too much of a hurdle, depending on what the other partners for this guy are, because you want to be flipping him for these abilities. Clearly, you can, just not flip him when you don't have to, but if it becomes his flip to alt isn't crucial enough, is that going to interfere with the other sequencing too much?
I
mean, I don't. That's more rhetorical. I don't know if you know that off the top of your head. Yeah,
not with Cliffjumper. So that's the big thing,
right?
Like that's exactly what you want to be doing with Cliffjumper. So not there. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Lockdown, I guess I know outside of the game, he's a relatively popular character, and he seems to have enough card text on him that maybe it'll justify enough people building decks around him to make it happen and satisfy those Lockdown fans out there.
What's his rarity?
He is a common.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, as compared to our previous character who is rare, which I don't know, it's just I don't really assign the power levels to the rarities. It's usually complexities are more tied to it, but it is interesting sometimes looking at that.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other thoughts for Lockdown?
No, I think he's solid.
Yeah, I think I can agree with you there. So moving from Lockdown, we have Mudflap, who I'm pretty sure was an Autobot at one point, but then again, we had a couple of these that were Decepticons. So anyway, Mudflap is another truck ranged in both modes, 8 stars, 5/12/1, and when you flip to alt mode, you can plan 1. Now in bot mode, he's a 4/12/2, and his bounty is reveal the top card of your deck. You may play it.
This is unexciting.
You're not excited by this guy. No. I mean, we've talked before about the field communicator stuff. I get the hypothetical synergy. I guess you could escape route into his alt mode, get him with Mudflap and play the card. I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
It's unique in that you can play a card again during the attack phase, the combat step, whatever you want to call it, which is outside of the norm. So I think it's notable in that fashion. But other than that, I mean, he's fine, I guess.
He's a truck. So if you're not getting
as compared to cars.
I mean, it's not a relevant alt mode.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. And his abilities just aren't a bounty where you just get to play a card. To me is you have to play a bunch of cards to set that up. So you're not.
Yeah. Why didn't you just play the other card to begin with?
Yeah, you're just a net negative in that. This guy should cost 7, in my opinion. But
I could see where the stats on him would be. Well, I guess at 70 would still be fine. Yeah. I don't know.
He has a giant amount of hit points, right?
Yeah, he's 12.
Yeah, this guy should just cost 7. It'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm not super thrilled by him either. So, sorry, Mudflap. Chat's confirming he was an Autobot turned Decepticon, is now apparently freelance. I'll take it. So, Nightbird, like we were calling out earlier, this is actually going to be the release promo. So, she is I think she was officially the first female Transformer in G1, because I don't think
she wasn't a Transformer.
Technically, yes. I guess it depends by what definition, because you could argue maybe the G1 Dinobots weren't quite there either.
No, they transformed.
I mean, she transformed now she has an alt mode, so
yeah, she did in the cartoon.
Yeah, didn't she? I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time since I saw that specific episode.
She was just a ninja thing. She was just a robot.
Well, that part I remembered, but
Yeah.
anyway, before we go down that rabbit hole, so Nightbird, she is a 7-star car, ranged in both modes, 411-0, and when you flip to alt mode, when your opponent plays, or when you're in alt mode, excuse me, when your opponent plays an action, they choose one of their characters and do 1 damage to it. Now, in bot mode, she's a 311-1, and her bounty is play an action from your opponent's scrap pile. Both rather unique abilities.
Yes.
Any other thoughts other than uniqueness?
As long as you're in a situation where your opponent's not just playing a bunch of combat actions because you're not going to get any benefit from them. I mean, this will really hurt me, I tell you that much.
Well, yeah, that could be a problem.
This will really hurt decks I play because I play a lot of direct damage. She's going to be getting direct damage off. Assuming that other people are in the same situation, this is likely worth it. Like, this is again the whole your pseudo Battlefield Legend ability of like getting to play an action card onto another target after attacking and killing the primary target. And the fact that basically she just gets free indirect damage on them for the first like 2 turns, like 2 turns where they can play actions, like where they do just not play an action to not put damage. Like you're just gonna get. She just starts out with like, it's not a whole lot of damage, but I mean it's still a random damage here and there that she gets to just do on guys.
Yeah, there are very few characters that are gonna. I mean, you know, the Ransacks of the world that you're gonna feel bad about it.
Yeah, or Battle Masters, things like that. But I mean, like, it's nothing it's not insignificant. Like, it's damage you eventually have to do anyway. So
exactly,
that ability is not irrelevant, and I think, and her bounty is obviously unique, but at the same time, like, can be extremely powerful,
for sure,
or can be bad if they're just playing a bunch of combat actions that don't actually help you, but. Like at worst, I would look at it like it's probably going to net you card draw. It's probably going to net you direct damage or anything like that. Obviously, her stats are not anything to write home about on purpose because this ability is just so powerful. But
yeah, if she was a bigger threat, we would see a lot of Nightbird. I think.
I still think you're going to, just because I think it's so unique.
Yeah.
That
is this enough to make you want to play Pure Scott to make sure that she gets there?
I'll just play like Reckless Charges and Grenade Launchers instead. So no.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, like this is the prototypical like, oh, they have some insignificant dunk that I don't want to really actually quote waste my attack on. I want to attack somebody more significant. No, this is where you actually want to attack the lesser target to take them out.
Yeah,
because you're going to get a free play out of it, especially when you're like in the mid game.
And you're not necessarily wasting an attack either, because as you were talking about with her alt mode ability, you have to do it anyway. Like you're going to have to do it to win the game. And at 7 stars, she isn't, as compared to some of the other mercenaries that we were discussing, necessarily going to be the focal points. You're not going to have to invest a huge attack or a valuable attack into that random character.
Right, and if she's attacking an already damaged character, let's say against a blue deck, and takes out somebody in like small, in all likelihood, the card you're playing out of their scrap pile is going to be equal to the amount of damage you were probably going to be dealing to the other character anyway.
Right.
It's more significant. So as long as you're setting up situations like that, I see no downside to her whatsoever, other than obviously there are going to be situations where she won't do anything, like if you attack and they've reshuffled their deck or something like that.
I mean, there is that.
So, I mean, but I don't think it's going to matter all that often. And then, obviously, as the game goes later, alt mode ability becomes more powerful.
Right. Yeah.
She has no flip to alt mode ability. Right?
No, it's just when she's in alt mode, she has the indirect damage. I
think she's good because she's so unique.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm surprised this is on a promo, considering that everybody will have it, because it's a pretty, quote, difficult ability, like more skill intensive, more unique to the game. So
I think it's similar to what they did with Smashdown, where he was a battle master, so showcase the battle masters as part of the promos. I think the new battle masters and the new weaponizers are an extension of existing known cards. So somebody already playing already knows what a battle master is. This is we should showcase the Mercenaries. Whether it should be her or not is, I guess, another discussion, but just because of the nature of the ability. But I can see why they chose a mercenary to be the promo.
Yep.
And yeah, I would expect that we're going to see Nightbird or some rendition of her in a variety of builds.
I think she's solid.
Yeah. There was a Twitter comment chat saying that cons are so bad, Deadlock had to become a mercenary to get a decent card.
Fair.
So moving on, almost forgot, because our last mercenary bot is a triple changer, and I had to set up the overlay a little bit different because, again, it was a little bit of an ordeal trying to crop everything and get everything squeezed in. So we have Octone, who, if anybody watched G1, it's Octane, but I guess they couldn't copyright it or trademark it or whatever. I'm not sure. But he has a new name, still triple changer. So,
which is weird because I think by watching YouTube videos on Transformers, I was watching a lot of them on triple changers when Riders of the Commanders coming out. I think there was like a recent, like, I don't know, Titans Return.
Yeah, there was a toy
line that,
but he was
Octane.
He was Octone there too.
Oh, okay.
Which was at the time I was confused because I guess it's one of those things that maybe you can't trademark it because, it's a word. But
no, the thing is, if you don't use the name for like a certain amount of years, then you lose it. That's why.
Right, but you can. That doesn't mean you can't get it back, I don't think. But I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me on that, folks.
Yeah, something like that.
I think it's one of those, like, I'm pretty sure in the past they've lost some names, and then literally some other company for something unrelated or other toys picked the name up, and therefore they couldn't get it back. But anyway, I'm sure that's another thing where somebody will correct us on it. So
every time I see videos like that, they just say they will. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure that's what ended up happening here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So for Octone/Octane, triple changer, we got a truck, a plane, and bot mode. He's melee in truck mode, and then ranged in both plane and bot mode. He's 13 stars. He's a 5/17/2 in truck mode. And when you flip to this mode, your opponent chooses one of their Autobots and does 1 damage to it. It has +3 attack while attacking an Autobot.
That's an 8.
Yes. In plane mode, he's a 5/17/2. When you flip to this mode, your opponent chooses one of their Decepticons and does 1 damage to it. He has +3 attack while attacking Decepticons. And then in bot mode, his bounty is do 2 damage to an enemy. He's a 6/17/2 there. So this is, in other games I've seen that hate a faction ability on independent cards, and then, as we were saying earlier, it just makes it super niche, and it just is to the card's detriment. Here, since it's all tied into one, that is an advantage for him. But do you think it's enough to justify 13 stars, Scott?
Yeah.
I figured that was the answer, but it's kind of a handoff.
My only issue is that he has to start in the alt mode 1, so you're not going, like, the Autobot hate is going to be harder to pull off because you have to flip twice.
Well, only the ping. You're like, you do get the base starting at 8 attack.
Yeah, you're never attacking in those modes, so it doesn't really matter.
Well,
so I think this is actually like a guy that could actually use that triple changer battle card.
Oh, on the flip it into turn thing?
Yeah. Again, indirect damage will seem insignificant at first and then really add up when the game gets late. So the flip to those abilities, even though you're always going to want to be in all likelihood in bot mode, is gonna add up in the late game. The flip to the whatever mode you're trying to hate the faction on.
I get where you're going with it, but that's a lot. Without assuming the scenario is not involving whatever the triple changer card is that I can't remember the name of. If we ignore that one, that's a lot of flips to invest to do. I mean, yes, I agree with you. Damage is still damage, but it is indirect. It's only one, and it's going to take multiple turns, so that does dictate a lot of what the remainder of your deck can look like.
But also at that point, that's when you're actually going to want to be attacking in those modes because you're attacking higher than you were.
And in
the bot mode.
It does give you a lot of options as far as, I don't know if I'm going to get the bounty, or the bounty will be irrelevant because that guy, I'm not going to kill him with the plasma burst, or he's already going to die to this other attack or whatever. And then you want to guarantee that you just have a higher base attack. It gives you a lot of decision points there, which I like.
Yeah, and then obviously because it's a plane, you can combine with the other indirect damage card in two-pronged attack. So there's just more indirect damage that's piled on top of it.
Yeah, you can very much pour it on with this.
Yeah.
I mean, 17-2 that's a lot of stats.
Yeah. With the built-in plasma burst. So obviously, big fan of this character. Obviously, he has to be the center point of the deck, but I don't see the negative of that. Just because, again, you have a direct damage built in to your card. We're going to go over a battle card in the next episode that's insane with him. So there's that aspect of it as well. Any cards that will, I guess this is the easiest and most powerful anything that refers to a bounty outside of like actually doing the bounty ability. So I think there's 2 cards I want to say that we've seen in the battle deck that can do that.
And not to jump ahead, but
Nightbird's the same way also.
As far as what do you mean?
As far as powerful bounties that you would want to do outside of that.
If they were an independent card or something.
Well, I know there's a secret action that lets you like proc a bounty, and I know there's a battle card that lets you proc a bounty if you don't kill a character. So like any of these cards are going to...
I got you. I misunderstood what you're saying. I thought you were saying something totally different, so don't worry about it.
No, it's fine. Yeah. I just didn't mention... I mean, I assume we'll talk about this when we talk about the cards, but that's... To me, looking at him on his own, people are going to say, oh, well, he's not as good as Battlefield Legend, or he's not as good as XYZ 13 because he's so many stars. But you have to understand that when you get these other cards to play with him, that bounty ability just becomes so many more times that you could actually...
Well, like you said, the ones that allow you to activate a bounty without fulfilling the normal condition. How often did you want to have a plasma burst that had a pip?
Right.
I mean, that's the simplistic way of looking at it, but I think that gets the point across.
Yeah. Super rare. So, because he's a mercenary, maybe we won't get a 4th super rare because he's not really a faction based. So maybe there's only 3 secret rares, but there probably are 4.
I'm not sure. That's actually a good point because I don't think there's been anything said as to the quantity.
No,
I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there hasn't, but maybe I missed it.
I mean, Triptychon is, quote, a secret rare, but he's not technically part of the set, so I don't know how they're going to factor that in as well. But...
Right. Yeah, it definitely makes things a little odd. And I'm going to go out on a limb and assume, and you tell me if you feel otherwise, Scott, but I would assume these are all of the mercenaries and all of the mercenary-related cards is what we saw.
I think ones directly reference them, yes, but there might be other cards that just play well with them, like, the triple changer card plays well with them.
Yes, yeah. Those I would count as separate, but ones that specifically have a mercenary tag in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, what impresses me is you have a foldable secret rare and only one of them like that just seems really hard to like package correctly, considering it's like a different printing style to be able to print the foldable card. So that just impresses me that they were willing to, unless
go to those lengths.
Unless we think there's another triple changer of some sort that'll be the other secret rare.
I mean, they do have other triple changers in the set, so maybe if there's quantity, and we haven't seen all the characters yet, so if there are additional triple changers, that it's just, they fill out the remainder of the printing sheets with those other characters. Maybe.
Yeah, but just the fact that it's a secret rare and the other two we've seen so far are common, it just impresses me that they would. So, I mean,
I get you.
Ape Face has been on a bunch of cards, so it's maybe him as this extra Decepticon secret rare or something. I don't know, but
I don't out there. I don't remember. They were always evenly split prior, right? Like we weren't ahead on one faction or another up to this point.
No, but we haven't had Mercenaries either, so I don't know what they're going to do.
Right. Well, that was my point. If we were ahead on, say, we had one extra Autobot through 3 waves, then maybe we could get the Ape Face being, the other secret rare or something.
I'm trying to think.
Because it was Nemesis Bumblebee, Springer Blitzwing.
But you had
Windblade and
Starscream, right?
Okay. So it was even there. Then Wave 3 was Cog, Megatron, Shockwave,
and Ultra Magnus. Yeah, so we're even right now.
Yeah, so it was even all the way through. So we'll have to wait and see. Sorry, everybody, we can't figure it out the easy way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. I do really like this guy. Makes me. I was very just in my heart. I wanted to play Astro Train, but the reality is Octane's a kind of better.
I mean, this is well worth obviously going kill a significant character and then just being able to plasma versus somebody else. I mean, that's exactly what you want to be doing with legend type ability. And it's the fact that these other cards reference the mercenary tags that I think really puts them over the top.
I'm glad that they included in the same set. It would have been very easy to introduce the faction and then give them support later on, like in Wave 5. In which case, everybody would have opened all these mercenaries and gone, well, great, why am I playing these when I could just instead be blah? Now there's, on top of other incentives, you love the character, it happens to work into a certain play style, they do have ways to supplement a mercenary deck or justify having additional mercenaries, so.
Right.
Let's see, skimming chat real quick to see. Octane was a con. It's in G1 at one point, but he's a mercenary, so you're absolutely right.
Well, all the characters that are referenced have had, I guess you would call them crises of faith in terms of faction at some point, and there was I think it was a three episode arc with Octane where he was like deciding what he wanted to do in life. In G1, and that's where like Starscream's ghost was significant with him and reactivated Unicron and all that stuff. So
all of these characters have definitely had other across various media, so it is cool that again the team is making that effort to dig kind of deep and get some of these are not necessarily deep cuts, but some of them are, and it's appreciated that they're going to those lengths. I guess that kind of closes it up for this one, Scott, though, at least for this portion. As we said earlier, we are going to be covering the battle cards, but we're going to split it into 2. So any thoughts or closing thoughts in general on Mercenaries or any of the other reveals or anything like that?
No, I think it's great for the game. I think it's really exciting. And I'm very excited there's battle cards that interact with it.
Absolutely, yeah. What he said, ditto, etc. I am really excited about these, as I said, the specific characters. And that's not to throw any shade on the other reveals, because there are non-mercenary reveals that we're excited about too. But obviously they're fresh in our mind and they are the new hotness. So we're definitely giving a little bit of emphasis to them.
As of like 5 hours ago, yes.
Yeah, at time of this recording, it's only a scant few hours. So,
Yep.
but anyway, so we're going to close up shop on this one, but stay tuned for our next episode. We're covering all the battle cards in this recent bulk of reveals. So as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and please tune in next time for more Tech Talk.
Dan here from VectorSigma.info. We wanted to take this moment to thank all of our patrons for believing in the service we're providing. If you're not yet a member of a Patreon, feel free to click on the link for other podcasts like this one, or verse videos, or any of the other great content that we provide on our YouTube channel. Thanks, guys.